Woohoo! Our next
We-
podcast. Here we go.
Woohoo! Hello! I'm
Hello,
so excited.
hello.
It's about damn time.
I know, it's been a while. We've kind of slacked off.
We have. I'm glad we're fresh and ready to be boss bitches again now. I love this
That's
for us.
right. Taking on the world.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so I was going to ask you because I know you were on this little challenge this week of this mirror challenge. So I was going to ask you how that went. And then we can talk about because we both did this mirror challenge in high school. And we did it together, and I think it was just you and me. I don't know. I don't think anyone did it with us that I know of. Do you remember?
No. No, I think it was just us because I remember it was lit review, right? It was Mr. Johnson's
Yeah,
lit review class. And he was the coolest high school teacher as far as just like inspiring people. I just remember him like pushing us outside of our comfort zone every
definitely.
waking moment, like almost to the point where it was like, okay, like we're
Too much.
uncomfortable. Like, okay, all
Oh, I'm
right.
already uncomfortable just existing.
Right. In high school, our high school body selves were just
Yeah,
like, we don't even know who the fuck we are yet, so we're uncomfortable. But I love it because he totally stretched us. Like, was like, no, like that's not good enough. I know you can do better. I know you can like do more as far as like discovering yourself and just like figuring yourself out. So I just remember that being such an impactful time. And I actually saw an Instagram post. I'll like maybe try to look as I'm talking here just so I can like give like credit to her. But I think I sent it to you, right? I sent you the mirror pic, the mirror one from her.
from who?
At some point. I send you so much stuff. Who even knows? But um but I think I remember you sending it to you, and it was that account that was like, I felt God asking me or challenging me to go without a mirror. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's what I did back in high school. And I felt just such a pull toward it that I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do it. I am just gonna like kind of push myself, and because there is something about it, and I thought it was kind of just ironic that it's like hard for me to not look in the mirror. Like, since when is it hard to not do something like that takes time? You know what I mean? Because like
Yeah,
time is of the essence. So like it's hard for me to give up something that kind of like wastes my time. Like weird, you know? Like anything like that
right.
is probably not healthy that I even do it so much. So and I don't really consider myself like a particularly vain person normally, but I know that it like runs in my family. It's almost like a generational curse of like vanity, because I know like just several family members, I feel like they just can't leave the house unless they look nice, and like if they
Yeah.
just can't get it right, it kind of ruins their day. And like I have a lot of friends who I feel like are like that, where they almost just kind of let the mirror dictate their mood, and
Like
like
who they are and
yeah, like the
how they
whole kind
they
of
present themselves in the world and their
yeah.
personality even.
And yeah, and like the whole like tone of the day sometimes is either made or broken from like getting ready in the morning. And I was like, honestly, fuck that. Like I want to conquer that, and I feel like it's a generational curse, like I said, that I want to like just conquer. Like I'm not even sure if I'll have kids, but you know, for nieces, nephews, like my friends' kids, like I just want to like try and conquer this and like separate my mood from my reflection in the mirror. You know, like if I look ugly one
Yeah,
day, so be it. It's
I
just
love
kind of
that.
like whatever. So yeah, it was interesting. I just did it for a week, and today was my last day. So
Yeah, I remember in high school, I think a couple people, or maybe someone mentioned or was doing a no makeup challenge. And I think that, like, I don't remember exactly how this went, so remind me if I'm remembering it wrong. But I remember being like, "Oh, no makeup, okay, okay." But like I felt like I'm also the kind of person that's like if too many people are doing something, it's like not interesting to me anymore. So I was like I have
yeah,
to like make it interesting for myself in order for me to like get excited about something. So I was like, and I wanted to do something like that, but I was like the no makeup thing doesn't feel interesting to me. Like um, and I felt like, but I don't know if someone told me that or if that was an idea I came up with or you came up with, but I remember like, oh, the no mirror, that sounds interesting. That was like an interesting concept to go without a mirror for a whole week. I hadn't heard of anyone doing that before.
yeah, no, I really think that you came up with that actually, because I remember the no makeup challenge was something that was circulating around school a little bit, because of some kind of month. You know how like in high school you pay attention to like, oh, it's pizza day, or it's like
Yeah.
whatever month, you know, like it's just because we're bored and we don't have jobs and whatever, you know, like we
Right.
like pay attention to all that stuff. So I
So true.
remember it was kind of going around, and like not very many girls even did the no makeup challenge, and the ones that did, it was funny, they did like the clean girl makeup where they still wore
Yeah.
some, and it was like not a true challenge. But I remember you kind of like stepped it up a little bit, and I don't think I did it for a week. I think I did it for a couple days. And I remember it being hard for me. I like at high school, and it
Well,
wasn't that hard
yeah.
for me this time around, like as an adult, which it should have been harder because I have like jobs to go to, school, whatever. It wasn't hard this time, but I remember high school, I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like it's so ugly. Like I just can't, like, I don't know. I barely made it for like 2 or 3 days. It was like sad, but it was
Wow.
very empowering too. So
Yeah. How did you feel at the end of it? And how do you feel at the end of it now? Do you feel like there's any difference? Do you feel any change or any like how do you feel towards the end now that you just did it again?
yeah. Yeah, like honestly, I feel so great. I'm so thankful that I did it because I feel like I needed a reset for like I don't know, I have like a lot of big life changes which you know about. You know all about them. And I just I feel like it's a season of transition for me and like a season of growth, and I kind of wanted to jumpstart it in like a really healthy way where I'm like breaking things off of myself that I don't want to carry with me into like, you know, the
I
future.
love that.
And I just didn't want to have to like I didn't want the mirror to like give me permission of whether or not I was going to have a good day or I like myself on a given day. Like the mirror
Yeah.
doesn't get to give me permission to like myself.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this, and I feel so great. Like I genuinely feel like it broke something off of me. And I looked in the
Wow.
mirror on purpose for the first time, you know, this week, because there were a couple times where I would like accidentally glance in like a public, you know, bathroom. I was like washing my hands. I was like, "Oh, whoops, okay." But I wouldn't like look at myself. You know, like I literally didn't look at myself for an entire week. So today I looked at myself and I was like putting on like some of
Wow.
my like tinted moisturizer, and it was funny because I didn't get to like wear any makeup or anything, which, you know, I had a couple of events and like things to go to, and I was like, you know what? Guess I'm going without because I don't have anyone that I live with that can help me put it on.
Yeah.
So whatever, you know. And
Yeah.
and it's not that out of the ordinary. I feel like I go without sometimes, but for events and stuff, I like to dress up. So that was really interesting. But today, when I looked in the mirror, like it honestly felt like I was just like seeing an old friend. Like
Mm.
it was really sweet. I was like, wow, like yeah, this is like cool. Like I don't hate, you know, and I never like I guess hated myself, but I didn't ever have super great like self-confidence in high school. And so
Yeah.
it's cool as an adult to just be like so okay with myself and so like, yeah, okay, this is what it is, and like this is what you look like, and people love you
So
no
you
matter
feel
what.
like it
And
boosted your confidence?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like
Or
it did
like
like
do you feel like it boosted your confidence or you became more neutral about the way that you look?
I think it boosted my confidence like where it matters for me, which is like the
Mm.
fact that like my week went so well because of
Yeah.
like, you know, like I don't care like how like it almost made me so neutral about my looks
Right.
that, you know, for better or worse, that like I had such a good week just not thinking about it and like being like more present with life and like not
Yeah.
like trying to check and like make sure that like I was still, you know, able to see people, able to have a good day. You know, it's like so
Yeah.
sad. We like go and we check our face like so many times a day. And I
Yeah.
covered all the mirrors in my house because I knew that it would be hard to like remember. So I was like, I'm just gonna cover them because I'm gonna forget and look just like whatever. And it's interesting how
Yeah.
many times I would look like whenever I'd be passing by my hallway, you know, that giant mirror in my hallway, or like
Yeah.
just in the bathroom, like I just go check my reflection or whatever, and I'm like, what? Like, why do I do that? You know what I mean? Like, did I forget what
Yeah.
I look
It's just
like?
like this like unconscious habit that you're doing.
Yeah,
So
and I'm
you're
like,
just
why do
like
I do
mirror,
that?
mirror, mirror. Every time there's a mirror, it's like gotta look at
Like I'm
yourself, gotta check something, gotta
right. I'm like
what
trying
am
to
I gonna
validate
fix?
exactly. Yeah, like what am I gonna fix? And so it was really cool, and I'm glad I did it. But I'm curious, like with
You know what that
you,
reminds me of?
yeah,
Is how much I loved, and it's funny too because it's like I was gonna say how much I love getting like my picture taken by a Christian when we did that photo shoot with Visions of a Life and her thing, and how much I loved like my single photo shoot. And which sounds strange because this is like kind of like an anti-vanity conversation or whatever, but like
No, I love it.
the the not like seeing yourself or not knowing how you're gonna look and just like presenting yourself and like it's on film too, so you have no idea what it looks like you just have to like there was this real sense of presence in that was so fun for me and beautiful. Like it was a beautiful feeling to like be like directed and to just like trust the process and sink into it and to
Love
never
that.
not have any kind of immediate feedback on like even though it's like oh you want to look good like that's the point of a photo shoot, right, to like look good, but it was like it just felt good to like it felt more of like an art form, like a craft than it did like like if you're like taking a selfie or something like that, like it just that I had this art element to it that was like an experience and like very presence filled, and I remember just like being on such a high after that. I just loved that so much. It was such a almost like very grounding. It was really cool.
Yeah, that I love that. And honestly, it does kind of go along with it really well because it is like a matter of presence, like being present in the moment and not caring and just enjoying life and
Yeah.
trusting like that your like sense of fun and your sense of
Yeah.
life and like livelihood just being so like full of light and good energy
Yeah.
is like carrying on well for you. You know, like that's really all that matters is like how you feel about yourself. And how you feel about yourself really does not have to have any kind of anything to do with the mirror. And like that's just
Yeah.
like something that really freed me I think this week because it's like everyone likes to look nice and I still will sometimes like
Right.
I love to dress up. Like I love looking nice and I love wearing my nice things and wearing makeup whatever sometimes, but I truly feel completely detached from it as far as like how I feel about myself whether or
Yeah.
not I'm wearing it now. And I felt a little bit like that. Like I'd say I'm like, you know, reasonably like I was like reasonably confident about that stuff, but like now I'm like detached from it and it feels freeing. Like I feel way more free. So,
I I love that. I love that.
and I love
Yeah.
what you're saying about the film because yeah, Christian, I mean, she's so gifted. So like absolutely, you know, trusting her is easy anyway, but like yeah, like so much fun. Like it's clear like in your photos that you're having so much fun and I think that's what makes them so beautiful too. Like you look gorgeous in them, but your energy comes through in them because you're so present. It's not like you're like, oh, let me see. Oh, it's a bad one. Delete
Yeah.
it. You know?
And I think that like that whole like system of immediate feedback that we have with just about everything, like we get immediate feedback on everything. And like a mirror is like immediate feedback too. And like I think it does take away from the experience of life when you're giving everything like a critique, you know? Because like why do you look in a mirror? To critique, right? You want to fix something. You
Exactly.
rarely look in the mirror for the purpose of like admiration or for the purpose of love. You know, it's like it's usually almost always for the purpose of critique and fix.
Yep.
And those two, critique and fix are not where like life is found. You know, like life is found in like the love of things, the appreciation of things, the admiration of things. Like that is where things expand and like where your heart expands, where like you feel life in this beautiful way. And so much of our life is revolved around critique, feedback, like changing things so that they're more appealing for other people, whether that's at your job, you know, or your looks or whatever. It's like you're constantly like that's even how you like survive in this world. Like you have to make money. In order to make money, you have to create things or do things that appeal to people. And like our whole life is really situated that way, but like there's not a lot of real joy in that. And I think when you take away the mirror, or like when you take away like digital, where you don't have this immediate feedback with like a digital camera or like a phone, like you get to really sink into like everything that you love about this experience versus like everything that you're gonna change about it to make it better.
Oh, that was so well said. I love that. It's so true. Like the critique thing that really hit me, because I think that's a better way, I think, of what I was trying to say earlier with like what I felt free from. You know, like the critique.
Yeah,
It's like it's not wrong to want to look cute and feel good about yourself
right.
and like to dress up and to feel beautiful, you know, but like in order to feel that way, why do we have to have something extra than what we have already? You know, like we have to add to ourselves to feel beautiful? No, like I reject that because that's critiquing myself and saying I'm not enough as I am. I have to add. And I think that's actually been something that like just, you know, being like kind of vulnerable, I guess, is like something I've been wrestling with, that like God's been working on me with, is like feeling like either too much or not enough. And
Mm-hmm.
like in the area of like relationships, I always worry about that. And like not so much in my friendships, because like I know you guys, like you guys are all so like accepting of me and known each other forever, so that helps. I think it's more of like a sisterhood. But like even in like work sometimes, or like school, you know, like there's just always like a constant worry of like, am I too much? Am I not enough? Is it going to be good?
Mm-hmm.
Is it, you know, am I good? Am I okay?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's like all connected to that. And maybe that's why this meant so much to me, because I'm like trying to figure out, am I enough for me, for myself? Because that's really all that matters. You know, it's like, I hope I'm enough for other people too, but am I for me? Because that's like really only the only thing I can control. So,
Yeah, I one of the things that came up for me while I was thinking about this, and like when you told me you were doing this challenge, um, was, well, a couple things. But one, so when I was at Bethel in ministry school, there was like that no makeup thing was like circulating again, and a group of girls wanted to do it. And which I thought was amazing. Like I love that. But then they were like saying like, okay, we're gonna do like everyone does it or nobody does it. And I was like, I don't know about that one, guys. Like, and I hated to be like the real downer on that because normally like I love people's ideas and like I'm like all for everything anyone wants to do. But
yeah.
I was like, I was like, I don't know if it should be like you're gonna make everyone do this essentially, or like whoever ends up not doing it, like ruins it for everybody, you know? So I was like, I kind of like, I pushed back on that a little bit, but part of the reason that I did was because I really did not feel that calling like at that time. And I didn't want to tell you, I didn't want to like bring this up to you before you started your challenge because like I actually had a little bit of a different experience with that challenge, and mine wasn't incredibly positive honestly, and but I also am like, but I know like things work differently so much for different people, so I was like, oh, I want to hear how like Lauren's thing goes and like what that was like for her, and like without putting any of my 2 cents on it before you had started.
Oh, no worries.
but
Yeah.
but I remember, so in and how I experienced it in the moment might be different than maybe like my memory of it too. Like it could be a little bit different, but I I actually remember I sort of felt like disconnected from myself a little bit when I did the no mirror challenge. And what I realized was, so when I lived in Reading, I my room situation was there was this huge mirror that like lined my bed, on this like on the side of my bed at that apartment. And so I would wake up and like open my eyes and like see myself in the mirror basically. And I for me I started like it actually became such like a grounding experience. Like I don't know what it was, but like I started to feel like I started to really like connect with God through like my own eyes. Like I would just like look in the mirror, and like that's where I would experience God, is like when I would just like look in my eyes.
Yeah.
And I started to really feel so close and connected to the divine, um through like that, like like eye gazing with my own eyes, basically. And I remember because I have a lot of like morning anxiety. Like I wake up with anxiety almost every morning. Like it's very, very common for me. And then they'll usually fade within like an hour and a half. But like it's pretty standard. Like I can pretty much count on it just about every day. But I remember waking up with this giant mirror and I would wake up with peace. Like it was so
Wow.
weird. That yeah, and I don't know like it was something that I like kind of discovered in that season was that like I don't know, there's something just like really grounding about it when you lose like cuz it wasn't like oh how do I look necessarily like do I look okay cuz like I would wake up and I'm like dirty and like my hair is like crazy and like so it wasn't like that it was just like this like I don't know, this like real connection with like raw humanness, which I really connect with like God and divine. And
I love that's beautiful.
yeah, and I remember so like for me, like I feel like actually my pendulum growing up really started out on the whole like distancing myself from like beauty and talked to you about this before, but like distancing myself from like beauty and looks and like anything revolving around that was like really kind of like felt it was like tainted and bad and like pretend like it doesn't exist, like all that kind of stuff. But then I actually found my way a lot more when I started to like embrace it all, like embrace beauty and embrace like dressing the way that makes me feel like who I am on the inside and doing my hair the way that makes me feel like who I am on the inside. Like once I started to because I started so far on that like one side of the pendulum, once I started I actually needed to embrace those things. So the mirror challenge in high school actually didn't bring me towards center. It brought me more away a little bit because I was already swinging that way a little too far, I felt like. And
Interesting. Yeah.
and then yeah, like and I've said this before too, like when I was in ministry school, I started embracing like dressing the way I wanted to dress and really like dressing like what I felt like was cool and like felt like me and like the way I wanted to like present myself. And that's where I really felt like very centered. Um when I started to embrace that more because I had pushed that away so much, I started to feel more centered when I like sort of found a more balance with it all.
Yeah, that's really cool. I actually really didn't so up until this conversation, I had no idea your experience in high school about it. I don't think we talked about it much in high school. I think we wrote our papers on it, and I don't think you and I ever really discussed it. I think it was just more of kind of like a, yeah, we did the thing and like, cool, it's done now.
Yeah.
And like, I just don't know if like we forgot or like we just like, because I don't remember it ever being a conscious thing like, oh, let's talk
No, I
about it.
don't think
Or,
I ever talked about it necessarily too
yeah,
much. But I remember it was circulating quite a bit that we were doing it because it was kind of like a big challenge and like it did
happen.
like I remember a lot of people talking about the fact that we were doing it.
Yeah,
Um but
so funny.
and I did feel a pressure to like be like, "Oh yeah, wow, like that really helped." Like I don't know if I actually ever said that, but like I felt
Yeah.
like a lot of pressure for it to be good, and helpful, but it wasn't for me personally. And actually a lot of the things that I did in lit review actually weren't helpful.
That's
But
so
they were
funny.
yeah, but they were helpful in the fact that I learned that those risks weren't necessarily risks that I needed to take.
Right. Right. It helped you
Which is
learn yourself
funny.
and like what you need or
Yeah.
what you don't need.
Yeah, like I
Like, yeah,
appreciate the fact that I did that.
totally. No, that's so I love hearing about this because it's just a different just a different perspective of yeah, that time through your eyes, which is cool to hear. But yeah, for me, it's almost just kind of a huge compliment to you and your character though, the fact that you didn't ever really swing harshly that way of like toward vanity and things like that. Like I actually feel like
I
for
don't
me,
know if I would say that necessarily, But I
Yeah.
do feel like upbringing wise, there was a lot of shame around that.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. See, for me, I feel like there was almost like this pull toward vanity that I wanted to reject. And I think that's why it
Right.
was so good for me because I felt naturally like, I think also it had to do with the fact that I went to that school my whole life. And like
Yeah.
people saw me like a certain way. And like I had so much like, I feel like I had so much shame around being like such an ugly kid for so long. And then I like finally got like braces, and I had braces for like 3 years, and then I finally got them off in like eighth grade. Thank God, like seventh or eighth grade. And I was like, oh my gosh, I finally like don't hate myself. And like in high school, I don't think I ever really hated myself, but I wasn't like, we talked about this earlier today actually on like a completely different topic, which we can touch on another time. But um, yeah, like I did not have like great self esteem. Like I was finally like okay with myself, but I didn't
Yeah.
like myself. And it felt like almost heresy to like yourself because we went to such a small
Yeah.
school that
It
the
did.
girls who did like themselves, it was like, oh, she's so like full of herself. Like she's
Yeah.
like, wow, like she likes herself. How dare
Yeah.
she?
Like how dare her?
Right. And so I think like
Yeah.
being in that like environment almost trained me to not like myself, almost like to the opposite of extreme of like the unhealthy way of the opposite way that you felt. You know what I mean? Where it was like, I feel like I need to be pretty in order to be,
Right.
you know, worth something, which is so sad. But then like, rejecting that and like trying to like not do anything and like not look great on purpose and to
Yeah.
see how people treat you. It's such a risk in high school because you're already so
Yeah.
and it's like, what if they treat me different? And now it's like, if they treat me different, fuck off. Like, you're not my
Right.
person, not my people,
Yeah.
whatever. Like, that's easy for me. That's great. If you don't treat me well, you just weeded yourself out. Awesome. You know? But
Yeah.
in high school, I was not like that. I was like, please like me, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so it was scary for me, but I think I conquered something. And then it almost like doing it as an adult, I think was so meaningful because it like solidified things that I like planted roots and seeds in like when I was in high school of like what I
Yeah.
wanted to be.
Yeah. That that reminded me of being in middle school, which was by far the most tumultuous time when it comes to insecurity, especially around the way you look. And I mean, one, I think most middle schoolers are just like riddled with anxiety, like just from the fact that their hormones are changing so much. But also there's just so much that comes with middle school. It can just be tough. But I remember, so middle school was when I think middle school was when you know my mom was dating or married to Bo, and so I had like my stepsisters and stuff, and I never really had sisters like around my age before. um but that was really unique for me to have sisters like that, like around, and like they're obviously like gorgeous and stuff. And but I remember that was like my self-esteem was so through the floor. Like that's the only time in my life I remember like crying because I felt so ugly. Like I remember like leave I think we were like having like a family breakfast or something, and then we all got ready. Ugh, we all got ready, and then I like came out, and I just was like, I felt so ugly. I just started crying and like left to the bathroom. Oh my gosh, I'm like getting emotional just like thinking back to that moment.
Wow,
And
yeah.
I was like, I was like also like embarrassed that I like was like, oh my God, like I just like left, like because I just feel so insecure, and like I just felt so insecure. And a big part of that was like when you're surrounded, because like people are your mirror in a lot of ways. And so like you're always comparing yourself to what you're looking at, and like against what you're looking at. And like so like all my friends and like my stepsisters and like my best friend at the time, like they were dark haired, they were curvy, like they were filled out. I was like this little like boy, like rail boy. Like I was like skinny arms, skinny legs, you know, like skinny everything, you know? I
Yeah.
just like, and like your shirts are just awkward, fit awkward, like your chest is just awkward, like everything is awkward, you know? And they just,
Braces, all the
yeah.
things.
And oh yeah, and
Yeah.
braces, I forgot braces. And then like I straightened my hair too. Like I had curly hair, and curly hair was like awkward at the time, but like I straightened and fried the heck out of it, and I bleached, you know, all the spray bleaches, and like, so like you're just like, you know, ruining your hair at the same time, you know, like trying to like, you know, do this mold thing that you're trying to fit into. But like just like seeing, like, to me, what I was looking at was the standard of beauty, which was dark hair, filled out. Also, they were like naturally confident. Like my best friend and like my stepsisters were all like naturally confident people. Like I didn't feel, especially at that time. I think I come off a lot more naturally confident now, but not at
Yeah.
that time. Like I mean, I was the shy girl. I was the one who like could barely handle a conversation with like the cash register. Like I was like I would just like freak out like over stupid stuff.
Right.
And so like everything about what I was just felt like just a total failure. I just like I am not measuring up in any category. Like,
Mm,
and I just like, and so it like reminded me a lot of like, but now it's funny looking back because like now, like, I don't know about now, but even then, like a lot of times stereotypical typical beauty is like blonde hair, blue eyes, right? Which is what I
right.
had and
Right.
have. But yeah, I thought dark hair. I wanted to dye my hair dark. I wanted to like, you know, I like wanted to dress like them. I wanted to have their body shape. Like I just like was like, it's just amazing to me like what you're looking at all the time. You start it doesn't even matter, like beauty is like a lot of times just what you're looking at. Like that's like your standard of beauty in your eyes. Is just what do you look at all the time. And you measure yourself up against that. And we do that now even.
Wow. Yeah. There's so many things that you just said that I'm like, oh, that hit me so hard. Like, people are your mirror. I completely agree. And that's maybe even another reason I liked this challenge. People who like, I noticed people who noticed whether or not I wore makeup, and I didn't like it. You know what I mean? I was like,
Yeah.
like if it was like I don't know, like this one, I'm thinking of this one person. It was the only one person that I had kind of like a
Was it a
neutral.
guy or a girl?
It was a woman,
Yeah.
um, who I know, and she is like um, a little bit more on the superficial side.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, like, because I told her about the challenge or whatever, and she's like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah. She's like, hmm. Like, she was
Yeah.
looking at me when she was saying that, though. She was like, hmm. You know, like,
Oh,
basically, like, I would
wow.
never do that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
basically, like, a you look tired kind of vibe. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, bitch, I am, first of all. Second of all, like, you know what I mean? Like, I was like,
Accurate.
whatever. Like, I don't give a damn what she thought anyway. But I was like, I noticed, like, people really are your mirror. And it's like,
Yeah.
if you're able to, like, it's almost like it makes you more aware of all that and, like, more present, like we talked about. And it's, like, nice because it clarifies, like, the people in your life that, like, don't give a fuck who, what you look like. And
Yeah.
they think that you're just a beautiful person. Like,
Yeah.
those are your people.
Right.
And it's almost like it magnifies the healthy mirrors and the unhealthy mirrors. And I love what you said though about, like, it's true, like what you're around kind of defines what you want.
Mhm.
And that can be kind of like things that don't make sense after a while. It's
Yeah.
like, why would you want to be, like on the short side and, like, like, I mean, that's beautiful and great for people, whatever. But during the time that this was happening, the stereotypical beauty was not Kim Kardashian yet. It was actually like the Paris Hilton, whatever,
Right. Yeah.
like skinny, tall, blonde, like classic model thing. But
Yeah.
like, you didn't feel that because that wasn't your mirror, because you weren't super connected at the time to, like, the media and
That
things like that.
culture. Yeah.
Yeah. And you were just connected to your family and friends who
Right.
had the opposite. It was like the Kim K kind of vibe.
Right.
And so that's such a good point. I never really thought about that. How, like, people are your mirrors. Like, they define almost like what you want, whether or not you want them to. You have to almost stay conscious of, like,
Yeah,
What are
it's
these
hard to
people
do
defining?
too.
Yeah, it's tough to do. It's like, what are these people defining in my life?
Yeah. And I think that goes beyond just like looks, it goes with like gifting and talent and things like that. And like you'll find yourself in different circles, like emphasizing and like pedestaling different things. And when I was in ministry school, just like certain things were pedestaled, like having like a public speaking gift was super pedestaled, or being able to lead a room was very pedestaled. Like different like gifts that people have and skills like that you can learn and stuff. We're all like sort of pedestaled, and I don't know, just like going off that train of thought, I just remember we had to give like a preach, like, and I was like the leader of this like small group, and I was like, you guys, honestly, you don't need to give a preach. I was supposed to like grade them or whatever, and I was like, no, I was like, just share however you want to share. Like, you can write a poem, you can do a painting, you can give a preach, like, whatever feels the most authentic in you, like, just do it that way. I was like, we hear preaching all day, it's pedestaled every day of the week. Like, you don't have to be a great preacher. Most of us are not going to be preachers. Like,
Right.
if that's what you want and that's what feels authentic and good and like to you, like then yeah, do a preach. But like I was just like it just felt like exhausting to be like, okay, this is the thing we're supposed to be good at. This is the thing we're supposed to be good at. I'm just like, is it though? Like, is that really what's important to you? Or is that just what you're around right now? So that's what you think is so important that you have to like fit that mold.
Right. And I feel like in the prophetic realm, like it's such a beautiful realm if it's healthy, right? But like there is a lot of like pride in the realm, I feel like, of the
Yeah,
prophetic. If people let themselves kind of, you know, their human nature kind of comes out, which we all have that pride, it's like I want to be the best, I want to be good,
right.
whatever. But like it's funny, someone somewhere decided that that's the most valuable, and then all of a sudden everyone else has to have the same gift. But it's like there's like 10 gifts mentioned in the Bible, so like why is it just certain ones? I don't know. It just seemed, yeah, it's funny like looking back, it's like who decided that, who got to
Yeah.
decide that someone was so good that they get to choose what everyone else wants. That seems
Yeah.
weird, seems kind of controlling. And
Yeah, and
so
I think that's why it's important to take a step back and ask yourself, like, what do I love? And then, like, when you go out into the world, like, pursue those things. Like, and you might not be able to, like, do the thing that you love necessarily for your job or whatever. It may not work out that way, but, like, at least then you have, like, a sort of boundary to keep yourself from, like, climbing a wall that you don't even necessarily, like, your soul doesn't even care to get to the top of. Like your ego just keeps telling you like this is where you need to go because everyone looks like this, or everyone, this looks this good on Instagram, or like there's so many different ways that we like be like, oh, like once I like I'm gonna move toward that. Like subconsciously our ego's like, I want to move toward that, and we're like moving there, and then we're not like conscious of the fact that we're moving towards something that our soul doesn't even really care for. And like, and then ends up just being like so not fulfilling and empty.
right. Yeah, like you're like completely disconnected from your passions, like you said. It's like it's sad because there's like we've been given, I can't even speak. We've been given passions for a reason. Like we're all so unique in like what we're passionate about, and like if we're supposed to like mold into just like one or two, like that would just deprive the world and like even the spiritual realm so much. So I think it's really cool that you like basically kind of freed those girls in that way, in the smallest way. You're like, no, like you are absolutely allowed to chase whatever makes you excited. Like if a different medium of sharing makes you excited, do that. You don't need to be an eloquent speaker. Like literally God chose people who are not eloquent speakers to speak and like do things that like they weren't good at. Like it's
Yeah,
just like there's so many needs, I feel like, in
yeah,
like ministry and like its spiritual realm and things like that. And it's beautiful that, you know, certain people can like free people. I feel like you're good at that. Like you've always been good at being like your free spirit. It kind of gives permission to people to be like, wait, actually, yeah, like I kind of want to be a little bit rebellious here or there, and like I want to do the thing that nobody's doing or look, come off kind of wild or crazy or whatever. It's like freeing to be around, for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's sort of common. I mean, I'm just rabbit trailing here, but
I love
it's
it.
kind
It's a
of
rabbit trail podcast that tonight. I like.
I like to rabbit trail.
I like it.
But um yeah, I think it's common to like kind of put all of your engines behind like what am I going to succeed at in life? You know? Like even the fact of like when I say what you love, like I think the immediate American reaction to that is what do I love that I could turn into a like a
What
business
do I
or
love that
a
can turn into money? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Like that could turn into like notoriety or like fame in some form, you know? But like that's not even the question. It's like no, like what do you love today? Like I like that's really how I like love framing up my life at the moment is like what do I love today? What do I want to walk toward today? And because then I at that point I don't live my life for some like I don't know, capitalist like money making whatever. Like I'm living my life like the way I feel like life is supposed to be experienced, which is like for like joy and like the pure love of like this gift that we have, and so like most of the things I love, like you can't monetize. Like maybe two things you could, you know? And like those aren't two things that I love more than the other things. They're two things that get a lot more light or like are out in the open more than the others just because like people like those things and like I can make money off those things or what for whatever reason. But like I mean, I love walking Balboa Park more than I like writing poems. Like
Right.
um so it's like I don't know. I've just been like that's been like a recent journey for me is just like because I think also because like ministry school also and college and just high school even all of that is all about like pushing you funneling you into something which I get and there's a lot of good things about funneling you into because where you make money is also what a lot of times how you serve your community so that's cool like I get that that's great like this is that we're gonna funnel you into the place you can best serve the community, and I love that. But like I don't like reducing myself or other people down to that.
Yeah. I think a lot of what you're saying kind of really connects with what you were talking about being like your mirror. I feel like society is our mirror in terms of what success looks like
Right.
and like what we feel obligated to explore in ourselves. Like we don't really have a whole lot of like encouragement in our society to like you said, explore things that don't produce. Like we are such a high production society that it's like you have to be turning out something in order for you to feel good about yourself. And
Yeah.
I feel like that kind of plays into vanity. Like you have to be serving someone else. Like, because beauty is absolutely in the eye of the beholder, but it's a known fact that like beauty is nice to look at, whether it's a beautiful painting, a beautiful sunset, a beautiful person, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but I think like, yeah, it's almost like those two are kind of tied in a way where it's like it has to be serving someone else for it to be good or worth it,
Mhm.
like worth
Mhm.
doing. And I feel like you have to be really intentional in this society to be like, no, I'm going to do something that serves me because if I'm well served, I can well serve others as well. So
Yeah.
it's cool to like see, like I feel like I always see your stories and stuff obviously, and you're super intentional about your adventure because you love to adventure and you do
Yeah.
it almost every day. And I think it's beautiful because a lot of people consume themselves. I'm one of those people right now, and I know it's a season. I don't want to live like this forever. That I like consume myself in productivity because I have such like little free time that I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, I just want to like knock this out. I'm trying to finish my degrees
Yep.
by June of next year, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm going to do this thing. And but seeing your stories even is like inspiring for me in my like small amounts of free time. I'm like, okay, what do I want to do, not what do I need to do,
Yeah.
like not what do I hate or what do I hate least on my list that I have to do right now. It's like, no, what would make me happy? Like it's almost kind of challenging to see that, because if you're like in the high productivity mindset of like, I need to be producing right now to stay, keep my head above water, whatever. It's just
Yeah.
not a way to live. It's not sustainable. And I told you lately, like, I've totally been burning out,
Yeah.
and I've had to be really intentional about like rest. Like, my body even burned out like a week and a half ago, like I told you. And like, yeah, I had to like visit the hospital. Like, it was just totally crazy. And it's just proof that like we have to be feeding ourselves. It's not selfish
Yeah.
to take care of yourself, and to take care of yourself emotionally as well as
Yeah.
physically. But
And
this
it's
is
a
kind of
lot.
like, oh, sorry, go
It's,
ahead.
I was just gonna say it's a lot. I mean, it's not an easy thing to do, like in our world, to be able to provide for yourself, also have rest, also have adventure. Like, I mean, it's not an easy life to carve out for yourself to be able to have all those things. And like, there are definitely seasons where you have to emphasize one more than the other, and times where you have to emphasize one more than the other, and one almost completely while the others take a back seat. And like I think also to like I don't think a lot of people even know that I have a 9 to 5. Like
Right.
I have a 9 to 5. Like I have the the thing all the songs sing about never wanting to do, like
Yeah.
um so but I embraced that 9 to 5 a lot, and I find my adventure on weekends and after 5 p.m., like
Right.
and I actually really like it that way. I've come to really like doing a grind, like having the grind and then having the freedom. And I like it even more than when I was all freedom, when I was more freelance, because I didn't appreciate my freedom as much. It almost was like boredom and what do I do? And like, but now it's like, oh, I'm like daydreaming all day about what am I going to do after work or what am I going to do this weekend? And I get to have that like almost like daydream, like can't do it time, and then like fulfillment time, which it makes it like richer.
It's like a balance. Yeah. It's like such a beautiful balance of things, because like you said, yeah, like you almost kind of take it for granted when you can just do whatever you want all the time. Then you're like, well, what do I even want to do? Like,
Yeah,
this doesn't matter anymore. Like, it's not special
yeah,
anymore.
it does
But
lose a little bit of that.
yeah, I think that's really inspiring. Like, I know you and I have talked a lot about the job thing. You've been kind of helping me organize my thoughts with that kind of stuff. And I agree with you. Like, having experienced both in the past, I really do agree that despite a 9 to 5 being like it burns you out, sometimes it's actually really helpful in certain seasons, and
Yeah,
I plan to take one that's a little bit more structured, as pretty soon here. So hopefully that will allow more time to like have that freedom. And like, I think structure is something I could benefit from right now. I don't want to live
yeah,
my whole life structured because that makes me feel really constricted. But I
right.
think this is a season where I'd like totally benefit from it. And like, I definitely have been like listening really closely to what, like, all your points on that, because they're really valid. I feel like, all our conversations in the last couple weeks have been really helpful in like clarifying, like, no, this is good. This can be a good thing. You don't have to do this forever. It's not like a cage, like, you don't have to be afraid of it.
Yeah,
Because for a while I was like, oh, I reject that. I will not work for, I won't work a boring job. And it's like,
yeah,
no, sometimes you just got to do it. And sometimes it's kind of nice when it's boring. So you're not like
yeah.
constantly
It's not
stimulated.
the worst thing in the world. I mean, I did live in terror of that for a long time. And I feel like it was a little bit of a disservice to me because I actually feel overall work-wise much happier having a 9 to 5 than I did when I was freelance, which is really interesting and crazy to me.
Yeah.
But I do, I feel way happier. I feel like structure gives meaning to my freedom. Like where before it felt sort of meaningless. My freedom felt more meaningless.
Yeah.
Where now it feels meaningful and like I can't have everything, so I'm like choosing the things that I really want to do and the things that places I really want to see. And um I like I like I like I like its degree of boringness. Like I like hours in the day where I can't go do things and I can't be everywhere. Like that I felt like even for like my nervous system, I feel like that was actually helpful. It's just like, nope, these hours you're working and then you get into flow with work and you start to really enjoy boring things in a really like fun way. And I like my boring work. Like I now like I get into flow with it and I actually love it. And then I love transitioning out of that into like adventure time and like explore
More
the
cre-
world time.
yeah,
Yeah.
like your creativity gets to come alive because it was almost like sleeping.
Dormant. Yeah.
It's almost like
Right.
you kind of have to let it rest. Like I remember we had a lot of
Exactly.
interesting conversations about, oh, I'd love to like remember I was like, I'm gonna be an artist full time and sell my stuff. And then I really thought about it and I was like, I don't know. I feel like
Yeah.
I'd burn out. I don't want the pressure. I don't want the pressure to
Yeah.
perform with something that I love.
Right.
But the pressure to perform with something that I know I can do but don't feel strongly about, it's almost kind of like
Right.
nourishing.
Yeah, I really believe in having a job you like is, and not for everybody, but for me, having a job I like is better than having a job I love.
Oh,
I
I like that.
I really believe that for me it's better because I have so many different hobbies and they thrive off of being restrained for a bit and then let loose and then restrained for a bit and then let loose. And I
Right.
know if I was a full-time author, you know, like a lot of people think I should be or whatever, not a lot of people, I mean, who am I kidding? But like some people like have said, "Oh, you should," you know. But
Mm-hmm.
like I know if I was a full-time
Yeah.
author, I would not be a good writer. Like, I
Right.
wouldn't be. I am a better writer having a boring job. 100%. I'm a better poet. I'm a better like a life life enthusiast,
Yeah.
artist. I don't know, what do you want to call it? I'm better
Yeah.
because of it, and I really appreciate it. Which is something that like 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, me would never have said. Oh my God. I would have, I think I at one point said my worst fear in life is a 9 to 5. I think I said that before. Like my absolute worst terror fear in life is a 9 to 5. I think I said that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's most people's fear too, to be fair, especially if you are a creative. It's like, I don't want my creativity to die. But if you look at it, kind of like we were talking about, how it's like, it needs to rest. You need to like get rejuvenated, get inspired, like let yourself be bored. I feel like we
Yeah.
have a fear of being bored in our society, and we're so overstimulated all the time. How do you crank out something that, you know, even if it is creative, it's going to feel like work if you've already been cranking out things that you're supposed to, and you feel pressure to keep loving it. Like
Yeah.
it's like pressure. You're like, well, I work a job that I loved a month ago and now I hate it because it's like more, you know, pressure to perform. And
Yeah.
now what you love is all tangled up in the performance thing and it kind of ruins it. And yeah, like I've experienced that to a small degree with like the clothing thing. Like it started off like really, and it's great side income. I'll probably keep it, whatever, the resale business. But it's like, I don't love it anymore. And it's sad. It's like, I used to love it. And
Yeah.
now I'm like, well, I burned myself out, but it is what it is. But yeah, so I've definitely experienced what you're talking about. And it made me grateful that I didn't go the whole like professional painter route of like selling things. I might do it on the side still at some point, but it's
Yeah.
like pressure for it, like to, you know,
Yeah.
make for people who will be like mad at me if that's not their vision. It's like, how am I supposed to know your vision? Like, I just want to create, and if it resonates, great, but not like for money, you know?
Yeah, and I actually think it's easier to, we gotta wrap this up pretty soon, but I actually think it's easier to become successful at something that you're not hugely passionate about.
Yeah.
That's another controversial take, and I'm sure people would disagree with me on that. But something about, because like there's an energy of like needing something that like withholds it from you.
Right.
And so when you don't need something, like um it almost comes easier, you know? And that's how I feel about like my job. Like I feel like I'm better at it because I'm not like obsessive over it, you know? Like it's sort of just like something I'm good at and I've like become much, much better at over time. And I don't have all this resistance around it like I might if I was like an author. I would have so much resistance around writing because I care so much about it. Like I can't, like I don't want to put out crap writing, you know? Like I like it would just like it plagued me a lot more, you know? And I would be more upset about the things that I made that weren't I didn't feel good about, you know? It would bother me more.
Right.
Um and so yeah, that distinction feels really good for me, at least this point in my life. Maybe who knows, maybe it'll change, but
No, I love that.
anyways.
Yeah, and you have a great, work situation with like your boss, and like, yeah, it is something you're good at, which is ideal, and I love that for you. It honestly has been like super inspiring in this season, so I'm grateful, for sure that you share that. But yeah, this was super fun. So glad we got to chat about all this, and I know it has to be under an hour, so we should probably wrap it up like you said. But yeah. Also, can you still hear me?
Yeah, my AirPods just tapped out, so it's probably a good time to wrap this
Oh,
up.
perfect. Okay, because I was like echoing. I wasn't sure. I was like, hello? But okay. Perfect. All right. Well, love you, girl. Thanks for another fun chat.
Love you too. This was fun. I loved it. I'll talk to you
Awesome.
probably right after this.
Yeah, I'll call you. Bye.
Bye.